I am Wes Hurt. I am the founder of Clean Cause based in Austin, Texas. And today, Justin and I talked about identifying the root cause in life.
Wes Hurt, dude. Thank you. You're going to spend the next hour with me. We've got a lot of things to talk about. I want to start with the fact that you've always been an entrepreneur. I heard that you used to sell lemonade. I don't think a lot of people, as many people as we would think, sold lemonade as kids. I have yet to meet anybody who actually did it, right? So did you always know you wanted to launch a business?
I did, the store. Yes, I did a lemonade stand, but that really wasn't the one that I would point out as kind of, I like to say that I didn't choose entrepreneurship, it chose me. And so like there was a situation when I was young that I went door to door, and my mother said that a neighbor came back and told her that I was selling my baby books door to door. And I was like, I'm not sure if that's good or bad or what, but so like it was kind of like something that was like innate in me, or something that I just had this desire, and I don't know if it was tied to money or not. Who knows at that age, but it was there. So
something was there.
Yeah.
But like, to be at a young age and start doing that kind of stuff, that's what I've always admired about CEOs of small businesses or people who start any type of brand or product or company. It is kind of ingrained in you from like a young age. And I think for you, it was that for so long, right? But then when did it start getting like super real? Like I'm gonna like launch business and I'm gonna be really good at this shit.
Well, let me speak to maybe what the root cause or driver of that was, which I'm speculating. This is the first time I've ever even thought this. So like, why is someone go do an action early on, or just decide like, wow, I'm going to start doing gymnastics like this early on or something? I mean, for me, not having a family that was wonderful, but not necessarily the healthiest because of their upbringings, I was kind of alone growing up. And I think, one of the things that we all look for in life, and kind of an instinct of ours, is survival, and I like to think of it as even thrival is how I think of it. It's like, if you can survive, you can thrive. But that part of that survival was, what can scratch an itch within me that allows me to feel either secure or in control or safe, or all of those things. And I know it's a stretch to say this, but if you're not introduced to drugs or alcohol or these other obvious medicators that allow you to escape or change the way you feel, and you're not aware that those are menu items, if you will, of life, you're gonna pick from the menu you got. So am I going to sit there as a child? Did something intrigue me about engaging with people, and this was the vehicle to sell the book? I don't know, but I suspect it was a manifestation of the person that I was, and what I needed to do, or at least what I felt I need to do in that time to satisfy security. I know it's weird. I know it's stretch. I need to probably do a deeper dive on that, but this is the first time I've ever thought that. And I'm like, I think there might be something to that. Or maybe I just like lemonade or books. No, okay.
Lemonade and books.
Lemonade and books. Now you're talking.
What an interesting point, though. I feel like a lot of people don't think of their upbringing as a sense of security. More times it is just like, okay, well, this is where I was born. This is the family I was born into and all that stuff. But no, you need to feel secure in that. And then obviously you didn't.
Well, it's because it contributes to our constructs of like, everything's a downstream effect in life,
Yeah.
I say everything. I'll say some absolutes that aren't absolutes, but I say them in generally accurate. It's like, something happens to you today, I break my leg, it's going to change the way that I walk tomorrow. So if an event as a child happened where I thought I understood what trust was, and then that was ripped from me, then the next day, I don't trust people the same way. And it's really practical. And we talk about like trauma in life, and men don't like to talk about that because it's not machismo and like big and bold and burly. It's like, no, it's like root cause stuff. It's identifying. No. I don't need to over sensationalize the trauma or over dramatize, make it over dramatic and then become some victim. I think that's oftentimes the reason people don't like the idea of hearing from someone about their trauma. They're like, listen, we all got shit. But the truth is, trauma is legit. It is. And I've had some cool experiences over the last month and a half where I did some deep dive stuff on it. And that's why it's so fresh on me to be like, no, man, if we're looking at the finish line versus the root cause, and if we just accept the finish line as, well, I was just born here, no.
Yeah.
Stuff happens to us. Stuff happened to me, stuff happened to you. It happened to all of us, just varying degrees on the spectrum. But the net result or impact of those events is generally the same, that it changes the trajectory or the downstream effect thereafter. So it's something I've been really working on, and it just speaks to the idea of root cause. Don't accept it just is what it is. That's BS.
I heard that. That's the third time I've heard that this week. You know,
Really.
I think it was something on Instagram 2 days ago. There was two people that had said the same thing. That was like, you can never, or you should never go to someone and say, I am the way that I am, or it is what it is. Avoid those two phrases, right?
Well, and yeah, it's like that speaks to like kind of in a way that the nuances or the difference between shame and guilt. You know, shame people say is who I am. Guilt is what I did. And there, it's fascinating because it's like a massive distinction of things that people sometimes believe are synonymous, and they are not. One is an identity, and one is an experience or an action that you did.
Sure.
They're completely different, and they change the narrative and your perspective on life, on the person that you are.
Right.
So,
how much of that do you think is ego driven as to why people don't tap into that enough and do those deep dives like you're doing?
I mean, I'm an egomaniac with low self-esteem, though. I mean, that's the truth. Like, I'm never good enough, but I'm better than everyone. I mean, and I can crush anything, but then I'm scared as shit that my kid's gonna hit his head on the corner of a table, like fearlessly insecure. But how much is that ego driven? The truth is I'm not a subject matter expert on recovery, beverages, or life. I'm just a dude going through life, swinging at a lot of pitches, getting a couple of hits here and saying, how was I able to hit that? Why did I strike out and stuff? So when you speak to like an ego getting in the way, we can call it ego. Maybe it's pride. I think it's a cultural thing it's screwed up.
I just don't think people do enough of it. They don't do enough reflection, deep dive, right?
Hell no. No, 90% of the people in life, I believe, live within a frequency of like, so my life was here and here, like extreme.
Yeah.
And I think most people also experience their own afflictions in life. I'm not unique that I chose to put stuff up my nose. In a sense, I am maybe that somebody else didn't choose that, but they're either jerking off or they're eating too much ice cream or they're going to massage parlor. I mean, look, I don't. That's why when I speak of recovery doesn't define me. It's like it's not addiction.
It's just a part of
Yes.
Something that happened.
So to speak to that, I think it's I don't know that our society has really. I just think we're having to rewire a lot of stuff in our culture, just like we are. When you look at Black Lives Matter or you look at LGBT, you look at all of these different silos of culture that are antiquated in the way that maybe they should be respected and heard because of all of the downstream effect, this root cause stuff. When you start with slavery and now you're coming up here and people are talking about reparations, the people who are not part of that minority didn't experience that generational junk handoff of the baton. They don't have relevance. They don't get it. But you're like, no, dude, this is the result of those things. We're not saying you did it. We're saying that was the root cause that brought it up to this state. That's it.
Wow.
And so can people get honest, intellectually honest, and not feel guilty to own something that by default they didn't choose to be a part of, but contributed just because they happen to be in that environment? It doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you aware that now you can change and make those insights, convert those insights into actions. It's like, we talk about awareness too, but before we started recording and we were like, wait, we got to talk about that. So awareness, we're like, oh, I'm so aware that slavery took place.
Yeah.
And that was wrong. Okay. And it's like, cool, you're enlightened. Thanks. Now, what are you doing? What actions are you taking that demonstrate that your values and your actions align? Because I can tell you, I'm the deepest motherfucker on the planet. That I'm straight, but I can party with gay guys, and I don't feel threatened. This and that, and I'm so fucking open to the world and all this stuff. And then people go, okay, but you've been saying that for 20 years.
Yeah. Right.
Getting to the gym's half the battle. Well, yeah, you still look like shit. I'm saying that to my friend because I can. I'm not talking about humans, okay? I'm not that superficial, even though I am.
That's the point though. It's like you can say all these things, but what are you doing about it? You can show up to the gym. Are you actually working out? Are you wasting your fucking time?
Yes. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
you're wasting my time about telling me how aware you are about how 50% of the
Yeah,
journey
and
is.
that's also like not our job to go and tell people that stuff, don't you think? Like that
We
gets
do it.
so we do.
We do it because we're getting the affirmation of it. So we're
Right.
actually getting the win that we needed. And then we can change the people we tell it to. Because someone that you love or knows you well and you keep saying the same thing, I'm working on it, I'm working on it, I'm working on it. You've been working on it for 20 years. You don't know that. But if you go, Justin, tell me, dude, I struggle with ice cream and jerking off, like whatever, for the first time, and I'm like, damn, this dude's deep. Like he's willing to get vulnerable and lean in. The question is, am I willing to go further? Am I willing to reconcile with some of the anger that I have from people that hurt me in the past? But that if I believe in love and all those things, will my actions of living amends or direct amends to people be aligned? And those are things I'm struggling with today. Congruence. It's
Yep.
really about congruence, and I struggle with it big time.
Yeah. You said working on it. I always say work in progress. I think life is like you said, you might not consider yourself an expert in all these areas. Other people would probably look to you for that, which is a great thing. But it's like you can't consider yourself an expert because you're still experiencing it. And
Absolutely.
right.
And being an expert implies that there's an absolute knowledge to it, an absolute truth. In my opinion, that's what expert means. It means
Right.
the top. And if someone has that position, like you're saying, life is iterative. It's experiential. Math is math, but life is not. I mean, in the 2 + 2 is 4. It's empirical, and we know that logically. The subjective nature of everything we do in the world, and me being a subject matter expert, bullshit.
Yeah, I get it.
I struggle living under that kind of perception. That's what haunts a lot of people in recovery. It's the idea of saying, dude, I'm not cured. When people say I'm recovered, bullshit.
Yeah.
What are
Yeah.
you talking about? You're still a human. If you stop drinking and you die, then I'll say you died recovered. Cool.
Yeah. Right. No, that's a good point.
I
What
mean,
you could be addicted. It could be anything. Like you said, it's like your experience with drugs. It could be someone eating too much ice cream, watching too much porn. Addiction is addiction no matter what. And I mean, you brought it up earlier, which is trauma. Do you think trauma could be tied to addiction to some capacity, especially while you're going through recovery?
2 answers. I don't speak for Clean Cause when I answer this.
Yep.
Clean Cause is apolitical, it's open, it's agnostic, it's inclusive, it's everything we would want a president to be. Okay.
Yeah, I love that.
We're not gonna get it. That's what aspirationally clean is. And then there's Wes's dumbass opinions, which is what they are. And so what do I believe addiction, one of the major root causes? Absolutely. It's
Right.
trauma. It's that simple in many ways. And people would be like, wow, that guy's reckless to speak about something so dynamic in life right after he just said, life is iterative and subjective and it's not math. And I said, cool, that's why it's an opinion. And
Yeah.
it's been an experience that I've learned from thousands of people, from my own experience, no one else's, that they have trauma. And they didn't see it that way because they said, it's life, man. Everybody goes
life.
through it.
Yeah.
Process it, and then it's life.
Yeah. I've started to see a lot of people at whatever profile. It could be an intern, it could be someone that's a celebrity. You start getting as vulnerable to have these kind of conversations with anybody, and we're all dealing with the same shit. Tell me I'm not wrong. I mean, there's so much happening in our lives that have to do with like relationships, drugs, party, sex, alcohol, and no one talks about it.
We're not unique.
Right.
We're really not. I mean, it's insane. It's just like you said. So here's one little. I like it because it rhymes. To be honest with you, but addiction is just my flavor of affliction. That's it. It's just a flavor of what we all experience. That's it.
Yeah.
And the difference. But here's the difference. I think the reason we see a distinction in addiction, and people make it and separate it from all their indiscretions in their life and rationalize why theirs is less profound or less influential in the way they behave in life is because the consequences of addiction are much louder, much more visible.
Of course.
So I yell at you, Justin, and say, "You piece of shit," when I'm on 18 natural lights and a gram of cocaine. I ate too much ice cream. I feel like shit about myself the next day, and maybe I'm just slower and I bark at somebody.
Yeah.
That's holding me hostage the same way, but the results or the consequences are not. And I also think the societal consequences, they're more there's more of a causal relationship between consequences and addiction, i.e., I'm driving drunk, and now I'm putting everybody else at risk.
Yeah.
And so I think there is a reason for it to be elevated for that reason, because when you're taking someone else's safety into consideration, that's why I believe. But generally speaking, in terms of what you're saying, and I think we're aligned, is that we're all going through this thing called life, and that addiction is a symptom of the problem. It's
Right.
not the problem.
You said entrepreneurship found you. Would you say the same for addiction, and how? Just because I wonder, I mean, everybody
Survival.
goes through, yeah.
Survival, because someone's, I always was like, dude, it can't be that simple. Like, fight or flight,
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
it is. It is. Because what it goes, in the words of what you mean, fight means manifests in different ways. But
Mm,
the fight could be like, I'm just going to try to compartmentalize this and hold, but I'm not leaving.
you're right.
Me, I'm both. I'm a hybrid, man. I will fight your ass if I feel threatened, and I will fight if I feel like I can't fight. I'm out. So I would really just use whichever was convenient. But I think it really comes down to the root cause or driver of that being survival. It's it's like one of our most basic instincts, in human.
I think so.
And to me, survival means security or safety.
In what context, though? Explain that more.
Yeah. So you said, Wes, do you think addiction found you? So no, I found addiction. I found a medicator that allowed me to change the way I feel, because either the inputs in my life had not been able to help me process them on my own,
Yeah.
or an event or parents or life or diet or things like, there's also some really practical shit out there that I have failed to do. I still eat like shit. I love candy. I eat pizza, and I have switched to oat milk, and that's about my only like health win. I lost like 20 pounds recently, and I feel like, damn, you're looking good. I'm like, well,
Yeah, you look, yeah.
Well, I'm like, that's depression. It's the depression diet. It's fantastic. It's called don't fucking eat, and you'll feel awful all day and you'll look great. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so I found addiction in the sense that I found someone that enabled, I found something that was working until it didn't work. You'll hear that. And working means it was able to change the way I felt,
Yeah.
which was either threatened or unsafe, into a place where I felt safe and empowered. That's it. So I found addiction because I found something that worked.
What was the thing that made you feel safe enough to then get on this road to recovery?
Yeah. So now you got to flip it. Here's the paradox. It works until it doesn't. So
Yeah.
the picture of addiction is that I drink one beer and it satisfies. And now I'm like, wow, okay, I don't feel as threatened. I'm not looking over my shoulders as much. Wow, that one beer doesn't do it anymore. 2 beers. Then you start to reach practical bottlenecks. How much can your body hold? You're not able to get the same effect anymore, the same relief, even though it's temporal. And so then at some point, the tipping point happens. And I know where mine was. It's when I switched to opiates. So I had been drinking and drugging for 20 years. The last 2 years of that, for some reason, I was never into opiates. Maybe I was just ready to go, or I didn't have the right pill or something. Who knows? But
Sure.
It was what I had to graduate to change the way I felt, to maintain what I had done to survive those 20 years. Now, look, there's some fun in this partying too. I'm not going to bullshit. I had some fun. And that's BS for anybody who says they didn't. But I did. But the consequences, the negative, and clearly outweigh it beyond doubt. So I just wanted to be honest and be candid. Like, look, dude, party's still fun. I mean, and it's not just because I'm just trying to escape the way I feel. It's, you know, it's like not just that simple. But if you look at it, the underlying foundation of that was insecurity, needing to change the way I felt. So you graduate up to the bigger drugs, and then you reach this point. Mine was fear. Mine was a fear that the thing that I'd been using my whole life no longer gave me the security. That took me to hanging out in a cemetery about a mile away from my house where I'm sitting right now every single day for 9 months, wanting to kill myself. I have a rope in my garage that I keep. I've never showed that or told that to anybody on a podcast or anything. I don't want to over sensationalize it or anything, but I kept it because I remember exactly what tree I was under. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. And I sat there for 9 months saying, God, just give me a sign to let me know it's okay to die. And had I gotten that sign, Justin, I wouldn't be here because I was waiting. I'm looking for it. I'm like, I don't need a burning bush. Give me a bird. Give me anything. And so that pain brought me to a place of limbo of now it was no longer escaping because it wouldn't work. Now I'm sitting there with like this existential angst, this like limbo where I didn't want to live and I didn't want to die. I mean, I was screwed, but through lots of different circumstances and things like that, the pain is what ultimately drove me to say, I'll give this one more shot because I didn't want to kill myself. This no longer cured the pain. I only had one option left if those two were not viable for me. And that's thank God that was the decision I went to roll with. So
wow. Well,
it works until it doesn't. People hear that sometimes. They're like, that just sounds weird. You know, they're like, I'll be like, you know, alcohol and drugs were my solution and a really good one for a long time.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'm glad you're here.
Cheers.
Cheers to that, buddy. I mean, no, it's a hard place that I know a lot of people have probably visited if you think about it, right? And I think that anybody's tuning in right now, I mean, if it's a place where you've been, I think that there's always going to be other options out there. I mean, you said options, right? You could have lived or you could have died. And at this point, it's like you're kind of sitting in the middle. What was going through your head as to what that first step was going to be towards like something different, something beyond thinking about, you know, committing suicide or going back to that graveyard or whatever?
6 rehabs, 1 psych ward, 8 states and colleges and wreckage and Belize and Mexico and blah, 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 you know, all of it. And it's like, that wasn't enough to turn the dial. And so I guess you said the question is, what was it or what was the question? And I'm sorry, I'm thinking just.
No, keep thinking, man. Everything you're saying is great. Just like, what was that one thing, or what did you tell yourself, either or, like in that moment where you had to pick another option?
Yeah, the event that took place was, even though I went to the cemetery every day, I was homeless at that point. 7 years ago, I was living in a warehouse office with another homeless guy. And I would sleep on the ground, you know, and I had a sleeping bag and shit. But I said opiates, but at that very, very last leg, I started smoking crack too. Because the opiates weren't working. It's like, now I need a little crack. Nothing was working. Alcohol, pills, that, and I did not want to go to heroin yet. I was just like, no, I can't, because I have some buddies that are heroin addicts, and they just told me one thing: Wes, never put that needle in because you will never be able to put it down. And they're on the streets still today. And these are my best friends since kids. And it's like, and so I remembered that, like that truth that they told me, because we were the same people in terms of our addictive tendencies, but they looked at me with that look like you cannot deny. And they were like, do not do it, man. And I'm like, shit, he's trying to tell me really, really, really. So my point was, it still was trying to balance stuff. And something happened that night. I was laying there in my heart. I was just looking up and my heart started doing this just insane fluttering different ways. And it wasn't like Adderall palpitations or too many energy drinks. It was different. And I was like, oh shit. And I go, and this is the first time in my life that I actually thought I was gonna die. Not in that moment even, but I was like, I'm gonna die. Because I understood this different level because it was physical. And I go, oh God. And so I called my ex and I said, hey, I think I'm gonna die. and my whole family had taken a categorical tough love position, which ultimately I believe also attributed to help save my life and to get in recovery. But that solid stance of tough love, I called her and said that. In that moment, she said, "Come home right now if you want to get sober." And it was weird because it was not what had been, there was no phone calls being received, changes, locks, everything. And for one moment, she just said, "Come home." And I stopped for a minute. I looked over at Uncle Frank, who was this big black guy that we in completely different opposite worlds, who I still love today and I'm close to even 7 years later. And I said, "Frank, she's telling me to come home." And he goes, and he said, "Go." And I was like blown away in that moment that someone who was going to lose his friend and the comfort he had within addiction. And he said, "Go." So I went home, and that was the beginning, man.
Oh man, that's real.
Yeah,
That's beyond real.
It was wild, man. So, so I pause right now because I'm just this makes me run through some of my life, and to see even within my recovery journey, there's been a lot of help through it too, even on this side of things, because I think we were kind of just that speaks to the life experience, and I was never comfortable with a lot of that flowery language, like life experience, your progress, and but I'll be like, I know, but yeah.
Well, what does that terminology mean to you now? I mean, I'm sure you're still going through. I mean, you said you're kind of doing the mindfulness check-ins and stuff, doing the deep dives as you may, but what is it when you hear it'll get better and this is the process and this is the road to the better life that you can live. Like, what does all that mean to you?
Yeah, so to go back to root cause and that idea, to speak back to the origin of things and saying, hey, if we say that our primal instinct, one of our number ones is security or survival, then what does that look like for me today? So root cause is what contributes to that survival and that safety. Okay, so now what do I depend on externally or internally to make me feel safe? What I have come to realize is not external. And that's what I've been looking for my whole life. I was trying to change my internal. So, and have the external in place, my plans, I'll go to college, I'll do this, I'm going to be safe. Everybody's doing that 10% return when I diversify my portfolio. It's like bullshit.
Yeah.
So then I said, holy cow, I've been looking for security outside of my eyeballs
this whole time.
For 43 years. It's like this secret came out, which was your safety is within. Because it's your resolve about how, things that happen. You have an intellectual and spiritual, probably an emotional understanding of where you are today and what attributed to that. What I have found is that when you go back and look at these events in your life, regardless of how you process them, the product of that is, and it's just been my experience, is that a lot of anger I had changed to empathy.
Wow.
And it was like a waterfall of like freedom that I really engineered, because I was able to see the people or the things that contributed to my life that I thought were negative. They were just humans too, man. And they were pushing forward what happened to them or how they were. I mean, it's really that simple. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So when I look at my parents or I look at other people, I'm like, dude, maybe they gave me everything they could give me. And it switched. And I was like, I was asking for something they didn't have the capacity to give. And when you put those lenses on, it doesn't excuse them for the things, but it gives some understanding in my mind that enables us to have a little freedom, because anger serves no purpose for us. It doesn't. I know, even if it's justifiable, if it's justifiable, that's what's insane. It eats us alive. So when I found and got some resolve on some of these root cause things of what I believed made me safe, a couple different things are secrets. Secrets within me don't make me feel safe, because then I feel vulnerable by getting caught or whatever this is and stuff. So that's just one ingredient to the smoothie within, which is, hey, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Here's the other thing about security and safety for me is that I live in fear. I've been afraid of things my whole life, just
Yeah.
afraid. And by afraid, I mean, it's not necessarily like boo, like, it's like, hey, will I be financially secure down the road? Will I be a
Sure.
good father? Will I be all of those things? The funny thing about fear and things that we think could happen, what I would ask you is the times you've been afraid of something happening, how many times did it actually happen?
Ooh, yeah.
It will blow you away because our brains like to grab outliers in life and make them representative. They're like, no, this did happen. Like, stop, get honest, put all of it out there, and you'll find that it's less than a sliver of a percentage that ever even got close to the shit you were thinking could happen. It didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
It never happened. And that's the reality we were making for ourselves, that all this shit would happen. And we kept going. And it was the Rolodex that just kept cycling. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. That didn't happen. It didn't happen. What's next that's going to happen? Nothing ever fucking happened. It didn't happen. And so it's like, holy cow, we're living under this anxiety and fear, or I'll speak for myself, that never manifests. And that I had no control over.
I was just going to ask you about the uncontrollable and how you dealt with that, because
you have to level set with yourself on what you believe. No, if you believe you can control it, then go switch it. And then if you get the result, then badass for you.
Sure.
If you don't, live in fear and anxiety and just satisfied to be on Klonopin the rest of your life, or you can just say, oh shit, the reality is, you're not saying that bad things are not going to happen, because you're going to be intellectually honest enough to see that that's not practical comment. But what I will say is, if I'm looking back retrospectively in the 3 years of research, of being anxious and paranoid about all the fears in my life, that never manifested. And that when I heard that and I just soaked on that, I was like, oh gosh, it's true. If I get really honest, it's true. None of it happened. Almost none of it. And I was like, so I had to kind of recalibrate kind of my understanding. And so if you're living in fear, how do you live present too?
That's so true. I used to hear with anxiety, at least when I wouldn't even say studying it. I was just listening to a lot of self-help things at the time. And I was like, well, anxiety could be this one thing. I just always remember hearing the word future. It's like it's always tied to thoughts that are in the future, which then lead to the fact that you can never be present if you're thinking ahead. And then and then depression was tied to the past. So like the past, present, and future, right? Depression is tied to the past, anxiety is tied to the future.
Yep.
If you're suffering in either of those areas, then you're clearly not present, and that's a problem. And it's somewhere where a lot of people it's hard for people to get to.
No, I think you're dead on, and it's kind of like, I like to do visuals, or I dumb things down for me because I was slow in life. I was always a little behind.
I think all of us are, bro. Trust me.
It's like education and stuff. I'm like, I don't know, I want to color more. But this idea of because we say that we're like, anxiety is the future and depression is the past, and I'm right here in the middle, so I can't be there if I'm thinking about one of those. And you're like, no, you cannot. Because you cannot have two thoughts at the same time. Just like the same way that if someone's cutting into my knee, they're hitting me here, so I'm thinking about this, not the knee. And so just in the most simplistic way, it's like
one thing at a fucking time.
Yes, you can't. So if you're not making room to be present because of the future or the past, it's not fucking possible. And so, by the way, I don't know what the solution is exactly. I'm just level set with the problem.
Yeah.
But
what's like one thing at a time, or everybody always says like take it a day at a time. That's how I level set in the morning, at least. You the same, I'm sure. It's like just one thing, one thought,
one thing. Now here's something that was very profound to me too recently. I'm a guy that wants to change everything overnight. I'm a guy that if I don't have cocaine, I'm ready to go party, but I want to do that massive line because it's going to change it really quick. I'm like, fuck yeah. So I need things quick. I need instant gratification and blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
And what this guy told me is, and I didn't say that to him, but he already knew me. And he already knew all this. And he goes, Wes, what I want you to do this week is, this isn't about 360 degrees. This isn't about 180 degrees. This is about 2 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So shift your thinking 2 degrees. And what happens is this. And if you go down 1 month, if you go down 1 year, and you go the rest of your life, that's,
Yeah,
that's the
that's what it is.
impact of 2 degrees. And because the 360-degree idea
It's too
is,
fast.
is New Year's resolutions that fail.
Yeah.
They don't last. We all want that, but we don't do it. The people that do it is one fucking day at a time. The people who build Amazon, the people that are fit out there, the people that are spiritually sound, they put the work in. And the work was one day at a time, and it was intentional. Yeah.
Ooh, that's such a good point.
It's a good point, and that I probably need to listen to myself.
That's an even better point, dude. I don't think, and for so long that, I mean, you're the kickoff of season 5 season 5 is when we have you on right now, and that's that many straight weeks of giving other people sound advice and moderating these conversations, and like everything you've said has been so nurturing. And I know anybody tuning in right now, like I'm very, very grateful that you're here right now. And I still struggle with that, taking my own advice. And it's but if we can give it, we still have like all the autonomy to like tell ourselves we can do it too. I think we're just so busy giving it to other people. What do you think? I don't know. It's hard.
I do too. And we talked about ego and pride, like, and then you were
Yeah.
talking about splintering and saying like, well, no ego is good. Well, there's good ego and there's good pride. I'm like, dude, here's the deal. Can you celebrate the human that whoever made you or whatever made you is, and be like, okay, celebrating the good things about yourself? Yeah, you
And that's
can.
it. Yeah.
And that's okay. And then is it just about folding somebody's laundry and not telling them you did it? No, it's not. Now, what point for me, where my challenge is with some of the success we're starting to experience, is where authenticity transitions to exhibitionism. And it's where I'm like, the sober prophet wannabe, and like, once you see like, fucking mind-blowing ideas that I have, I'm gonna change the world. And it's like, dude, stop. You're trying to be one above instead of one up. And the thing I've missed my whole life is connection. And so the very thing that gives me life and is one of my gifts now becomes potentially the liability, because it reached the point of diminishing returns in terms of diminishing serenity or peace or understanding or satisfaction, to say, dude, you have what you wanted.
Yeah.
You have that. And
All of us. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, well, no, I'm sorry to cut you off. People often say that you get what you want. You see something that you once thought of come to life, and you're always gonna want more than that. And I think you're. I mean, it's
Can I ask a question? Why do you want more? And then I have a follow-up question to put you on.
Yeah, of course. I think because you see what you're capable of. I heard a long time ago, not to like bring something else up while answering your question, but I
No, I
heard a
want
long time ago that like people are, and to bring up fear again, a lot of people are scared of what they're capable of. And when you start activating and you start bringing things to life, like yours is your company, mine might be this podcast, and you're like, wait, this is working and I like it a lot. But then when like you said, I hate seeing that something's become a liability. Like I have become a little bit less emotionally attached, or I have put things to the side and not been as empathetic on certain degrees of producing this show. So there's parts of that I'm like, oh shit. But then that's when we then have to go back and like check in and level set, right?
Bam! I used level set in a text this morning after like I haven't used it in 3 years. I used that in a text this morning, and I think you're on it. Look, people don't do a marathon without anything. They don't stop, but they get water.
Yeah.
They do get water. So life is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Just like business. Business is not a sprint. It is a marathon. You have to check in and stop, recalibrate, because there's so much activity and influences and inputs coming on to us at any given time.
Yeah.
Physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual. If someone tells you that they have the perfect compass and it's aligned all the time, that doesn't seem very practical to me. So to be able to have that grace for ourselves, to understand that that the only thing certain is uncertainty, and that the only thing that we can count on is that we won't be perfect, but that we're going to aspire to it. It gives us grace to come to that space of awareness and then change awareness into insights and insights into action and then change, at least that's the kind of stuff I've been noodling on lately, and I'm trying to put to practice and see how it shakes out,
I love it. And while it shakes out too, it's going to feel very imbalanced. I think for anybody, it's never supposed to be balanced. Someone asked the other day, they go, how are you, like, how do you balance all your jobs? Or you always look like you're having a good time. And I was like, because I want the best of all worlds at all time. And it is very possible. And I don't give a fuck what anybody says. You can do as many jobs as you want. There's so many hours in the day. Will I say that this week has been nothing but meetings, and interviews and working until midnight, waking up at 5? That's fine. Next week won't be like that. So you also have to like put it in super perspective and say, this week, and you can play it out by week or by day, right? Today looks like this. These are what our priorities.
What I love about what you said too is I hear you like owning your life. You're like, this is my life. Look, at the end of the day, we can read books.
Yeah.
We can listen to seminars. We can do all of this. Yeah. But you also have the right to say, this is my life, and I'm not going to do what I don't want to do, and I'm going to go after what I do want to do.
It's so, and thank you for saying that. I'd say the same to you. It's like you can't get to that place if you keep thinking that you're victim to somebody or something. And that goes back to what you said earlier, which is like releasing that safety mechanism and just understanding that it's all within. And listen, if you're listening right now and you are in a corporate company, you can really relate to this. Or if you're an entrepreneur, you might not as much. So I remember this earlier this week. I had this conversation with a buddy working in corporate finance, has like a boss of a boss of a boss of a boss. And it's this ripple effect from leadership down, right? Everything starts from the top down. Then I had the same conversation. And what he said was that he was super stressed and was like working on someone else's clock and felt like the 9 to 5, the whole shindig. Then I asked my same friend who's an entrepreneur who has his own company, a great leader, and all of his teammates are his friends or, people that admire and respect him. And it's a very different element. Not saying you should choose one or the other. Whatever's best for you is best for you. But I will never forget telling him, I was like, well, I know I don't want to continue to always report to somebody, right? Be it a job or even if I'm with like my trainer, I don't want to like feel like I'm reporting to you. Like, this is something we're doing together. Why can't we do this together and be a team in it?
I don't work for you because if I don't work for you, you respect my opinions and inputs differently than if I had worked for you. That's my arrogant take on it.
But it's true.
But it's also what I value most. If anything, people are like, what do you want? So my question I was going to ask you.
Oh, yeah. The second one.
I'll circle back to mine was, what is the purpose of life? And here's why you're noodling on it for half a second, unless you already have it ready to roll. Here's why I say that. If we don't know what the purpose of life is, or don't have a feeling or some type of idea, it seems like, I don't know if this will land, but like, what direction are you moving? So there's no destination. I'm not saying destination in and of itself. I'm saying what is the reason for being at all? Right. And the question is what values, beliefs, or something do you use to define what that purpose is? Because if you don't have those, you have no compass. And there's a reason why we go into businesses and we see their badass headquarters and they have their values on the walls that half the employees don't know one of them, except for integrity. Here's the thing, we become desensitized to the importance of those things because those are the ingredients of the badass life smoothie that direct the way that you make decisions, because that's the litmus test. Those things. Am I going to go do drugs? No, because why? Because it's not a good idea. No, because I want to be there with my children and I value love now and I value safe. But if you don't have any of those, what are you doing? You're rudderless in life. Mm-hmm. There's nothing there. And that's what frustrates me for myself and others to say, what are you running on? What is directing you? So, Justin, what's the purpose of life?
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody. So for me, that purpose is to leave this place better than I found it and to give more than I receive. Simply put. But in
Yeah.
doing that, it's like I can attach that and I keep it broad. I'm like, well, if I can like pick up trash on the side of the street, like that's something I want to do. Or if I can start a podcast that is a self-improvement show of other men's narratives to, support other people's inspiring thoughts, then like that's going in that direction. And you
Yeah.
bring up values and beliefs. I think values and beliefs are like super great to kind of build day by day, dependent on what you're experiencing. Back to the like one thing at a time. If I'm answering an email, great. Like, how am I responding to the email? I'm one of the only people, I think, could be very wrong. Actually, you're probably like this. I don't do corporate emails. I don't say hello, I hope you're doing well. I say, hey, I looked at your Instagram last night and I'm obsessed with you and your dog, or whatever that is, right? But that's my
My,
way of,
my introduction this morning for two people
yeah,
that don't know each other was
yeah.
intro, and it said two dope
Mm,
dudes.
Stop. I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Yeah, two
I would have
dope
done the same
dudes.
fucking thing.
So I don't play by those rules either.
Yeah,
I don't,
yeah. Part
because
of
those
which is because I think
suck.
yeah, it's got to be fun. You have to have fun while doing it. That's a big part of like purpose to me in life. If you're not having fun,
Hell
I will say
yeah.
no in a heartbeat.
I love it, man. Yeah, dude. It's like walking in the store and somebody saying, "How you doing, man?" I go, "I'm fucking horrible." And I do that because it's fun to get real for a minute and
Yeah,
go, I
yeah.
go, I really appreciate you asking that, but I'm like, how many people actually tell you how they're doing? Because I'm going through
Correct.
a course and I'm a drug addict in recovery. I love that part. And my company during COVID is kind of getting weird. It's kind of scared as shit. How about you? And
Yeah.
they're like, but then I go, I'm kidding, man. But do you know what? My connection with that person changed the next time I go. And
This is
it's
why yeah.
real. We're
I,
real, you know?
This is why I've become friends with 48 guys to date on the show, because
So
that's why we started this. You said purpose. We started with a mission statement and a value statement. And if those don't continue every episode and we can't tie back to those every time someone like you comes on the show, I will quit
So
tomorrow.
here's the deal. So then it leads me to this other little adage that I want, I want like one of these before I die to be like mine. Okay. There's the ego. But it's like, do you believe what you say you believe? If you do not, throw that shit out. And here's what I
Correct.
mean. Stop saying you have integrity if you don't. Who cares? Nobody else is judging you on that because guess
Yeah, you don't
what?
have to say it. Yeah.
Hey, guess what? They already are judging you because the way you show up. So
Yeah.
if you think you have integrity or you think you're not an asshole or you don't think you curse or whatever, you are or you are not, but it doesn't, own it or change it. Because if I'm telling you I'm making decisions of who I work with based on trust, and then I do a deal with someone I don't trust, then you need to throw that value out as being something you care about because you don't. So it's okay too. That's the beautiful thing. It's okay. You get to choose whatever you give a shit about. You can have double standards. Maybe you value double standards. I value double standards because they allow me to say non-committal and be flexible. Badass. You owned it. Now you don't even have to worry about that anxiety because you're honest and people actually love that more.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, dude, that person is willing to admit their shit. I know I have mine. And that's weird, but now they've just totally taken away any kind of weirdness that I can have by just speculating on the shitty person they are because they just pulled it out, and you're like, damn, so
I
I know
love
we're
you,
all over
Wes.
the
That's,
place.
yeah. I mean, it's real shit. I let me not start with people. Actually, I don't even know what people are thinking right now on this podcast. Usually,
I know. We have to
I say
individualize
people.
this.
We have to, which is the best part of having conversations like this. I think personally, and you can attest to the same, that at some point we don't realize how positive it could be to have these conversations more often. And that's why I love media and I love whatever. If people say podcasting, I would say interviewing, moderating, hosting. I mean, that was always my goal, right? I wanted to be a journalist. Then I was like, well, I don't want to report the news, but I want to talk to people every single day, no matter what, right? Because I was always doing this shit, getting people in trouble in school or whatever. But now
Yeah.
that we're on this conversation right now, I feel that like this is not a job. This is not a pursuit of, all this additional shit that happens with building a platform or whatever.
Yep.
It's a conversation that I think people need to hear in order to have.
Hey, ready? Here it comes. You
What are
know
you
what it
doing?
is
You
for
wrote
me?
something down? Freedom.
It's freedom.
It's so freedom.
It's freedom. My shoulders are down. I'm okay. I feel comfortable to be able to explore things with you and talk about the reality that we all know,
Yeah.
but we won't talk about. And I'm not even going into stigma and all this shit. I'm just like,
Yeah.
guys, cat's out of the bag. We're all not that different from each other. And there's something that I thought, this is weird thing. I'm just gonna say it. Like, would the world change forever if we just decided one day, like tomorrow, everybody come outside your house naked for 5 minutes
Yeah.
and just be okay with it? And don't look at each other necessarily across the street, because I don't want to make it weird for you necessarily. My point is like, what, you already see that I'm not fit on my belly. Why don't I just fucking show you it? You already know that I fucking react on people. Why don't I just be that? I'm like, dude, we all already know, because we're already
Just
making
be.
all these fucking judgments. So just show up, because that's why I love you. Because I love the sore thumb that is you, or the differentiator that you are volatile, but you recognize it and are able to course correct it because you're passionate about finding out what the fuck matters to you. That's something I can fall in love with, you know? But this mediocre, middle of the road kind of status quo life, I am not interested in. It's okay. And that's why that is a judgment implied to a certain extent. And I'll retract that, because everyone else has their own choice in life. But for me, whatever that thing is that's meant to be, in quotes, normal, that's not normal to me. Normal is this. This is what I want to be normal, because I have joy and ultimately I have freedom. I have freedom of my mind. I used to tell my investor, I said, dude, here's the deal. My head and my heart. The freedom of the head and the heart and having those congruent is what I want in my life. That's what I want. I just want freedom. And freedom is not money. It's not, people. It's not. It's a means to a means. It's just a tool. But money in and of itself is not going to do it for you. I know more wealthy people than I can count on, like billionaires. And I know them well. And they are us. They're just us. It's not in their jets and shit. They're us. That's it. And, you know, I think one of the crazy things about that, and I know it's a tangent again, but, you know, I looked at my life as saying, like, you know, I tell people I'm in the rat race to get out of it, you know? And I'm like, how many people would think that? Because it's a nice saying, it's just fun to say and it's kind of cool. But, you know, this idea of like, there's the carrot on a stick that we're all chasing. And we think that when we get that carrot, that's the thing that we've arrived. I know tons of people who have gotten the carrot and gotten a carrot bigger than any of us will ever have, and it did not do it.
It didn't do, yeah.
It's not
the change is so minimal too.
It is. It's so crazy. And, you know,
I just, you know, yeah, and you mentioned money really quickly, not to cut you, but there's like so many people who I've met who are already in the 6-figure range of their life monetarily, and say when the wire or the transaction happens, nothing changes. It is a means, like you said, means to no means.
I say a means to a means.
Means to a means, but it's a tool.
It is a tool. That's all it is a tool.
Yeah.
And yes, look, and then, but I also like to put candor in this so people don't think you're trying to be some idealistic utopian person who doesn't care about money. Like, bullshit, I do. Because here's the, I also like the nice things of life. I like to be able to talk to you, Justin, in AC right now and not be having to like worry that my break is almost over. I do like that. I do like the idea of having a home in the mountains one day. It doesn't have to be big, but I like that idea. And I love AC in Texas. It's hot as shit here. Okay. That costs money. So
I love you, dude. Yeah.
Money, you know? Shit. But you know, just to speak, can I speak a little bit about the company or not really?
You speak to the company all you want to. This is your episode.
How much time do we have though? 5 minutes?
As much time as you need, bro.
You can't say that to me. You have to understand. You give me an inch, I'll take a mile.
You do. No, you say whatever's on your mind about clean clothes. But I will say, I mean, for the sake of time though, I mean, it's if you don't have anything after this recording, go for
it. Yeah, so I'm speechless for once in my life. I just want to speak to how all of these things have manifest into what my profession is today. And, you know, to me, I always wanted to know why in life. I just did. And I wanted real answers.
Mm.
And so, I think I always say this in podcasts or things like that, like what we've decided to believe was truth and then start to build on, I'm not convinced was truth in the first place. So a 2x4, you know what a 2x4 is, right? Like wood, 2x4,
Yep.
right? It's not 2x4 inches. It's 1.5 by 3.5 inches. We build houses with a 2x4. Like, what? Did you know it was 1.5 by 3.5 inches?
I had no idea. I just know people get hit really hard in the head with them sometimes.
And maybe we should do that to all of ourselves and reset that measurement so it's accurate. I don't know. I mean, shit. So my point is, I use that as a silly illustration, but it's powerful to me because it speaks to what we have assumed was real. And so anyway, to go, I'm going to go really quick on this, like almost like an elevator speech. Go through all of the past of addiction and stuff, trying to identify how to grow personally, how to change, how to look, and how to identify purpose and my why. For me, I always wanted to know that. I didn't get, I didn't, blow 20 years of life in quotes in the way that most people would look at it and do drugs and hurt people and spend money and all this stuff. So I could find my dream job. That was not part of the plan. And find my purpose. That's just so explicit and so clear to me. And I feel like now I'm like crazy gratitude. I could never have designed this. I'm living my dream passionately within a profession that allows me the freedom of both to pursue entrepreneurial venture and personal growth combined. And so, when I got sober, I launched a company called Clean Cause. We've been in business 7 years. We're based in Austin, Texas. We sell a badass tasting. Yes, there's a conflict of interest, but I do drink it. Badass tasting sparkling yerba mate that comes in low and no calorie options. Tons of different flavors, and it will give you a badass boost without make you feeling like shit. But that's my copywritten paragraph I just read. I'm gonna put that down.
On the other side of the paper that he wrote freedom on, by the way.
Yeah, freedom. There's no freedom of copywriting. I have to.
Yeah.
So, but the important thing about it is that it's a badass beverage. It is, and it's progressive and it functions better than the competition. But what I'll say is, at the end of the day, it's bubbles in a can without our cause and the integrity of that. And so, my mission was to create a sustainable source of funding that was driven through consumer purchases. To empower and energize recovery in America, for lack of a better statement. And, I'm a kind of guy that says, I believe we have a private solution for a public problem. I believe that the dollar is much more powerful than a vote. And I know that sounds crazy. I just do, because I don't trust the people who I give the vote to. But if I'm empowered and not beholden to them, and I can create an independence that is operates based on values that I believe are collectively going to be the best for society. And it also enables me to make a great income because I am a capitalist. But I'm one that doesn't believe the government should tell you what to do with your money, but your heart should, because those are things that actually matter, those relationships. And I've been really shitty with relationships in my life, but I'm finding redemption and vindication when my aspirations, even if they're aspirational values, show up more than not in my actions. And that ROI, as I call it, or the return on life investment, I call it ROLI, if you think about it, your life's your greatest asset, and we're not assured tomorrow. If I looked at all of the things I did in the ROLI of my life, the same way I do business, I would make different decisions.
That's right.
And so, to date, we've granted over $1 million, over 2,000 sober living scholarships, representing over $1 million. Our Give Back initiative, and then I'll bring it home, is coined Clean Kickstarts, and they were really designed as a practical give back initiative. In that people, when you're getting early recovery, you either gotten out of jail, you're off the streets, or coming out of rehab. You're not usually coming off a winning streak. But the point is that, there was a gap in the continuum of care between rehab and reintegration. So we wanted to help fill that need that's, really a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which was shelter, So the Sober Living Scholarship is intended to allow folks to establish a recovery routine and get a job, so they can start to build self-esteem and self-sufficiency, which ultimately is where that peace will come within. And
Oh
so,
yeah.
again, just I said I'd bring it home and I lied because now I'll bring it home. My philosophy in life has changed quite a bit. I came from a lot of prosperity. I was given a lot. So I'm not the guy who's going to claim that like I came from nothing. That's not true. But I was given so much and blessed beyond belief that also it was interesting, since when you don't have to work for something, you don't value it. If you don't value it, it's way easier though too, in theory. And so I've been blessed to not be beholden to money as being the thing. But yeah, I guess, philosophically, I just want to say this because I think it's important, because I want people to hear this, is that if they operate in life like this, I have found it for me to be so fulfilling and fruitful, which is, it's about grace. And grace, not from pulling out the Bible. We don't have to say, oh shit, he's going to go into this fundamentalism. No, I'm just saying, hey, there's this old adage, right? You give a man a fish, he lasts a day. You teach a man a fish, he'll live a lifetime.
Yeah.
I believe in a hybrid, which is come here and say, I want to learn to fish, and I'll feed you while you're learning to fish. And so that grace that allows someone enough time to catch their own fish, to then be inspired to know that that was real. There's a hybrid of it. And so to me, Clean Causes that manifests in the business model, which is the social component of helping people because your heart should tell you, and the business one to compete like a mofo against the biggest Red Bull Monster, bring that shit on, and to combine them in a yin yang double helix of an American business recipe that's new, that I don't think I know of a better one. And until there is one, this is what we're going to do. And I'll finish by saying Clean Cause is not the solution, but we're going to fucking be part of one. And so if you like it or what I'm saying at all, come check us out.
Yeah.
Cleancause.com or Amazon and check it out. Swig on it. If you like it, do it again. If you don't. All
Right.
good.
I love you, Wes Hurt, and I'm so glad I got to spend an hour with you, dude. It's almost like having you on the show, especially since you were dropping so much that you hadn't yet talked about either, means a lot to me. To trust me with this conversation and your brand is beyond.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, because like I said earlier, and I mean this genuinely, it's not patronizing, to say you're giving me the opportunity to grow in a way that I can overcome fear, because I don't know who's going to listen to this. I don't know, but my trust is in coming from within too. Yes, I trust you. I hope you're not going to change my words with some voice. Okay, cool. But my security is right here within me, because I'm like, no, this is my truth. And I find safety in my truth, not external.
And you being at that place in your life now is exactly why I was so happy to bring you on, and being able to share that with us is going to help a lot of other people too, I'm sure.
I hope so. And let's just all create space for grace for people to change. We're all going to fuck up. Instead of drilling them down, if you're willing to show that grace and give them a chance to course correct, the chance of them being reinforced within their hearts to carry that forward is much greater, which then enables them, all those motivational posters where we see a drop, and it's this ripple effect, that's where it happens.
Wes Hurt, thank you. This won't be the last time. I know that much.
Rock and roll, man. Thanks so much. I appreciate you. And it was really great. This was really therapeutic for me too. So thank you.